Hello everyone. Today we will be looking at the poem The Death of a Bird written by A.D. Hope. A.D. Hope or Alec Derwent Hope was a poet, critic, satirist and academic who was born in New South Wales. He was educated at the universities of Sydney and Oxford. He was a professor of English at the Australian National University and he retired in 1968 and devoted his time solely to poetry. Pope had a penchant for traditional verse forms and did not care for modern and postmodern trends in poetry. Profound use of iambic quatrains gave a traditional touch to his poems. He is also looked upon as a writer of erotic poems and a satirist who mocks technology and the absurdity of modern life. Some of the characteristics of Hope's poems are clarity of language and a distinct poetic vision, exploration of nature, and a blend of myth and legend. His first collection of poems, The Wandering Islands, established his reputation as a leading Australian poet of his time. Some of his other popular works are Poems, Collected Poems, New Poems, A Late Picking, and A Book of Answers. The Death of the Bird is considered to be one of the greatest lyrics of the 20th century, and its theme is based on the natural phenomena, that is, the annual migration of birds to warmer climates at the onset of winter. What is very special about Hope's bird is that it is entirely generic, that it does not refer to a particular bird like a nightingale, a blackbird, or any distinct species at all. It is completely anonymous. And this same kind of anonymity can be seen in another elegy written in the country churchyard by Thomas Gray. So it's almost on the same lines that we can see these two poems. At the same time, Hope renders this bird as a distinct being, capturing its experience as it goes on its last migration and eventually falls dead to the world. Falls from the sky dead. Now let's look at the poem. For every bird there is this last migration. Once more the cooling year kindles her heart with a warm passage to the summer station. Love pricks the course in lights across the charts. So, the bird is impelled. For every bird, there is this last migration. That is, a bird is impelled by some kind of life force or elan vital. It's a Latin term that means life force. It's a drive that the bird has to migrate at a particular point of the year when the climate starts becoming very cool. The bird is driven to take this migration and with warm passage to the summer station. So just as autumn is fading, the birds start migrating to warmer climates. But love pricks the course in lights across the chart. That is the path across the hemisphere, from one hemisphere to the other, is pricked out in light, almost like it's the pathway is lit up by these small lights. Year after year, a speck on the map, divided by a whole hemisphere, summons her to come, season after season, sure and safely guided. Going away, she is also coming home. So every year, the entire this point from where the bird starts and the point to which she is going, the bird is referred to as a female bird. So that use of the pronoun her. So by a whole hemisphere. That small point on the other half of the hemisphere seems to be beckoning her, summoning her, asking her to come over to that particular spot. And season after season, and as the summer gives away to autumn and autumn gives away to winter, this migration takes place, and it is sure and safely guided. There is no fixed path or GPR is guiding this bird, but the bird reaches from one spot to the other. And while she is going away, she is also coming home. So when she is leaving one nest and going to the other hemisphere, there also she has established a home for herself. So both are homes away from home. So there is not just one house for her, but two places on two different hemispheres that is close to her heart. And being home, memory becomes a passion with which she feeds her brood and straws her nest, aware of ghosts that haunt the heart's possession, and exiled love mourning within the breast. So, away from home, memory becomes a passion. When you leave home, that's when you start missing home terribly. Right now, I would say you would be missing your college terribly. When you had to come to college every day, submit your assignments, you never had great love for college. You just wanted to stay back at home. But now that you're home, you want to come back to college, you want to see your friends, you want to sit in class, you want to listen to the boring lectures, as long as you can get away from home. So that kind of memory, all the good things that used to happen in between the class hours, all those come back, with a kind of vengeance. And this is the, passion with which she feeds her brood. So as she sits in this new place, she thinks of her past and the place that she used to, and she feeds her brood and straws a nest, all with this passion that one day I'm going to go back. And she is aware of the ghosts that haunt the heart's possession and the exile love mourning within the breast. The fact that she is now not able to go back to the place that she was keeps her very sad. At the same time, she is pressed by the elan vital to keep pushing forward. The sands are green with a mirage of valleys. The palm trees cast a shadow not its own. Down the long architrave of temple or palace blows a cool air from the moorland scarps of stone. So here the sands are green with a mirage of valleys. The sands appear green as though they are, gives an illusion that there are lots of valleys. Now, mirage is a phenomenon that occurs in deserts, and sometimes when you're traveling on long roads, you feel that there is some bit of water on the road, but as you come closer, it is not there. So similarly, as the bird is flying across the sky, the sands appear green, as though they are deep green valleys. And the palm trees cast a shadow that it's not its own. Even the palm trees seem to be casting a little bit of shadow, the longing, creating a longing in the bird for a little bit of rest. Down the long architrave of temple or palace blows cool air from the moorland scarps of stone. So the architraves are these architectural structures, that curved places which can be seen usually in temples or palaces, and even there you can feel the cool breeze from the moorland coming and making the place very cold. And day by day, the whisper of love grows stronger, that delicate voice more urgent with despair. Custom and fear, constraining her no longer, drives her at last on the vast leagues of air. So day by day, as the days become cooler and cooler, she is driven by this whisper of love from the other place. Come back here. That whisper of love grows stronger, and the delicate voice becomes more urgent, because she knows that if the bird stays here, it is going to freeze to death. So it is seduced by the voice from the warmer place to make its last journey. And now there is no fear of any custom, or constraining her, restricting her, and she decides to take the last journey on the vast leagues of air. That is, it is a league is a measure for unit for measuring distance, like 3 miles or about 4,000 meters, and so on. So it that life force urges her to take its last journey across the air. A vanishing speck in those inane dominions, single and frail, uncertain of her place, alone in the bright host of her companions, lost in the blue unfriendliness of space. So the bird seems to be disappearing into the inane dominions, empty void of the sky. It seems to be lost in that sky. It's single, frail, and uncertain. It doesn't know where she is going as she flies across the sky. Alone in the bright host of her companions, slowly she, separates herself from her companions, from the entire bird that's flying as a host to the new land, or the land where they usually migrate. The bird slowly loses its way from its companions. So here the bird is, wrung away from the rest of its companions, increasing the loneliness in the uh, sky. And she's lost in the blue unfriendliness of the place. Even the blue of the sky creates an unfriendly space to that bird. She feels it close now, the appointed season. The invisible thread is broken as she flies. Suddenly, without warning, without reason, the guiding spark of instinct winks and dies. So suddenly she feels it close. Something feels she feels is approaching her. Very something that's very dark approaching her, and the appointed season. Usually it is a very ambiguous term. It could mean the time of death or the time of migration, whether or not it is the onset of death that is experienced, but as a death, or whether it's an abrupt intrusion, something that she is expecting, or whether it is an abrupt intrusion into her life. And suddenly, without warning, without reason, this guiding spark of instinct wings and dies. The spark of instinct that guides the bird to its destination across the sky is suddenly lost. And this could be a metaphorical reference to the onset of death. That is, the life in the bird suddenly wings and dies. Try as she will, the trackless world delivers no way, the wilderness of light, no sign. The immense complex map of hills and rivers mocks at a small wisdom with its vast design. So, no, even though she tries very hard not to die, here there is no choice. The wilderness, there is no way or sign where she should fall. And the immense complex map of hills and rivers, the vast universe seems to be mocking her small wisdom, with the intention of how could you even think of making this journey across the sky. So the entire world seems to be mocking at her adventurous spirit that longs to make her migration from a cold climate to a warm climate. And darkness rises from the eastern valleys, and the wind buffet her with their hungry breath, and the great earth, with neither grief nor malice, receives the tiny burden of their death. So the concluding stanza seems to be partly malevolent and partly indifferent. because it speaks about how slowly darkness rises from the valleys down below, and the wind is slowly buffeting the body of the bird that is now lifeless with its hungry breath. As the wind is tossing this body of the bird here and there in its great energy, and the earth is standing down below like a mother which does not have any grief or malice or any anger towards it, and slowly receives the tiny burden of her death. So the earth seems to be standing there ready to receive this humble offering of the dead bird into its arms. So that when the bird falls to the earth, the great earth receives this tiny burden. Now, here the poet can be seen to be addressing the theme of the annual migration of the bird to warmer climates at the onset of winter. The metaphorical journey that is undertaken highlights the central image of the poem, that is death. It is the last journey of migration of the bird from one point to the other. It is also a journey towards death, and death is presented as an inevitable condition of existence. It also deals with aging, and it uses the bird as a migration as an overarching metaphor, how people age and slowly go towards death. At the same time, it individualizes the bird. The bird is given great importance and gives great dignity to its existence. The poem can be read as an elegy, where it is mourning the death of this particular bird. We have poems on birds written by great poets like Percy Bysshe Shelley, who wrote The Skylark, and John Keats, who wrote the poem "Ode to a Nightingale." And those are two odes, but here it is an elegy to the death of this bird. Now, Shelley tells us in his ode that it is not really about a bird, but rather about the movement of the spirit, to which the bird and the song can be likened. But here, as I said before, Hope's poem is about the bird itself. Again, in Keats's Ode to a Nightingale, Keats says that thou was not born for death, immortal bird. But here the poem is about death, the death of the bird. So you can bring in a comparison with these two poems, Ode to a Nightingale by John Keats and Ode to a Skylark by Shelley. Now, how can we connect this poem with the post-colonial issue? That is, through this poem, the poet evokes the estrangement and yearning among the immigrants in Australia. That is, people who come and stay in Australia or make Australia their home from another land. But when they visit their homeland on vacations, the immigrants find that they no longer belong in their homeland either. So it is the same phenomenon that is experienced by this bird. Even though it is leaving its home to fly away to a warmer climate, there it does not feel completely at home, because in the place where it migrates to, there is always a calling to go back home. At the same time, when it is back home, at the appointed time, it feels an urge to come back to this migrating place. So here also, the people of immigrants of Australia, they feel a sense of rootlessness. The poem is very human. It is very much about the fate of human beings as much as it is about the bird, because the same sense of belongingness that the bird is not able to feel can be seen in the immigrants of Australia as well. So that is about the poem.